This video is all about mags. Who knows if this is actually going to be a proper review or more of a comparison, because I freestyle these things as I go. Usually I take notes, not even usually. Sometimes I take notes and we go by bullet points, but I've got a lot to say on these and we're just going to let the video take whatever direction it kind of goes. There are, these three distinct eras of mags kind of defined by the graphic. First of all, they came out with the yellow leaves version and denoted the 76A version with black leaves. And then after Harry Clark's, I think 2017 circuit, maybe it's more recent than that, maybe it was 2019, came out with the graphic commemorating his victory. Then more recently, most interestingly, they came out with this red version, which I saw at Maryhill this year, about a month before they actually dropped. Many riders were on these. I thought it was just a special graphic to commemorate something, or I don't know, but little did I know at the time they were developing a new formula, because there's a bit of lore here. So, a lot of people might be like, well, Owen, these mags and these mags are technically the same. Why distinguish them because of just a graphic? That's because I think that these actually are different. And there's, some recent history to maybe back that up, but also just anecdotally, I think a lot of people can agree that different batches of mags have felt different over the years. In my experience with these, I did buy them secondhand. They had only been cruised on, never slid, but the person cruising on them did, manage to break down a lot of the skin. So I never got the true mags experience on these old ones. But these other two sets I did skate from fresh. So I have that experience. But something about this wheel, this older urethane, albeit it's aged, so take it with a grain of salt, that my experience might not match yours. But I saw a lot of mags from this generation chunked, and when I've had the chances to skate these and similar mags from similar years, they've had a little bit more of aggressive of a slide characteristic than I've experienced out of these. I feel like, mags around this time, so like 2020, started to get slidier, started to have a little bit less braking force. They, across all generations, one thing is true. It's that this big wheel, big core with a big offset, not necessarily in the shape or the core placement, but where the bearing sits inside the core. You can see it's a lot deeper on that side than it is on that side. This has the effect of making these wheels pretty forgiving, despite having a lot of grip and braking force, which a lot of riders, when they try mags, will struggle with. Generally, the experience of riding them is forgiving. It's, a nice transition between the edge of traction when you're gripping and then breaking out into the slide. I would say of all the race wheels I've tried, these kind of give you the most play on the limit and the softest transition between gripping and sliding. And that can inspire a lot of confidence in people. When you're already skating something with this much traction, for it to also, not punish you that much for making mistakes is actually a really big compliment. And I really like the way that they've designed these to do that. But something about newer mags just is not as aggressive as these. Maybe a little bit less grip, maybe a little bit less brakes. The slide is smoother, which for a lot of riders is going to be a really good thing. But for me, breaking these mags in from fresh, I gotta admit I was pretty disappointed in the grip I was getting out of these. And trying them back to back with my older ones, I have noticed these have a little bit more grip. And so I was really curious when they dropped the Gaio 24 formula, the new red leaves, if it was going to be more like this or more like this. And I'm happy to say it is more like the original mags. Now, my understanding of what happened, and this is like a third-hand account of a friend passing this information along. So, don't eat me alive if I get this wrong. But my understanding of what happened is that Venom has a overseas urethane supplier. The components that go into the mixture that pours this goo that, cures into urethane, those supplies are coming from overseas. And what happened is that slowly over time, maybe all at once, but based on my experience writing different generations of Magnums, it feels maybe it was a slow transition over time. The chemistry of these ingredients slowly changed, and the wheels weren't performing like they used to. And eventually, the rumor was spread that Venom lost the formula for mags. Technically, they never exactly lost the formula. They just knew what their ingredients were from this supplier, and the supplier changed the ingredients, and they didn't know what was the exact chemistry of the first ingredients that they had. And so all of a sudden, they were scrambling to try to find like materials that would have similar properties to their wheels of the past, and had to formulate a new, completely different formula. So they didn't necessarily lose the materials. The place that they were just getting their ingredients from changed the recipe for flour, and all of a sudden they're like, well, our flour doesn't work like flour anymore. We need to come up with something that can replace this quickly. So I don't know, that analogy, maybe it hit, maybe it didn't, but that is my loose understanding of what happened. And did Venom succeed in replicating their old formula? I think they kind of did. I'm not addressing it right now, but clearly these wheels have endured some hell, which this is a characteristic I'm used to seeing out of, an older version of mags. It's not uncommon to see some of these older mags super chunked, because I think these were maybe higher rebound than these. And the new formula they've developed feels higher rebound to me. And this is a characteristic of higher rebound wheels, is that they chunk. And so we'll go into my understanding of what I think high rebound is. And this is not based in any, real serious research. So once again, take it with a grain of salt. We're very wishy-washy today, but we're freestyling. So urethane molecules, or a polyurethane, has these long strands of molecules that have some semblance of being woven together. Just as they're poured in, the energy of the chemical reaction, the curing, kind of makes these molecule chains weave and tie together. And a higher rebound urethane is going to have these molecule chains probably longer, but also probably more woven together. They're going to hold onto each other a little bit stronger, which means that when it is time for them to rip, like they're experiencing a really strong shear force, you're sliding into a rock off the road, or you're hitting a nasty crack in the pavement that's going to put a lot of uneven pressure through the lips of the wheels. What'll happen is, because these higher rebound polyurethane molecules are holding on to each other so tight, the one experiencing the force isn't just going to like break free. It's going to pull the rest of it with it. And you're going to get these larger chunks that come out of the wheel, rip away, because even though maybe the impact was only felt down here, there was enough tightly woven molecule chains that you can peel the whole thing down. And it's also partially why pouring urethane consistently, not having a swirled batch, is really important, particularly with high rebound urethanes, so that you get a good mixture of these these woven molecules. So again, you can fact check me and correct me in the comments if you want. I don't know a ton about this science, but this is my rudimentary understanding of how this works. And so Venom did it. They came back better than ever with a strong high rebound formula. And it seems like these, compared to the old ones, have maybe like 3% more grip, 3% more braking force, 3% more roll speed. Like it has these things that make it ever so slightly more competitive than what I've known from this. And I didn't skate these recently enough, and I also didn't skate them from fresh to be able to say with any confidence how these exactly compare. But this urethane is a little bit closer to what I've experienced on old mag urethane. So old mag enjoyers, you might be thrilled to see this. Now, the downside of this new urethane is it's clearly not as durable. I felt like the skin wore away a little bit quickly, and the lip durability and the chunking is a huge issue. So also, these were thaining for me in a couple places that I was skating, which was really surprising. That's not something I've experienced on, either of these. Yeah, this urethane is just less durable, which is a huge bummer for the amount of money you have to spend on wheels these days. And of course, you're running a higher risk of getting bigger chunks like this. I do also have some sizable chunks in my other wheels. Those are from just skating chundery rough roads. This chunk is actually from a crash where I went off the road. I don't recall hitting anything significant to call this, but it could have just been the sheer force of the wheel coming off of the pavement over the lip of the road before it falls away into the shoulder. That maybe did this. Hard to say, but all I remember is picking up my board and it missing a huge section here. So that's a bummer. It's a shame. For so long now, mags have kind of reigned undisputed as the best race wheels. Fastest, grippiest, best braking force, most consistent. And I think they deserve all these accolades. But one thing that I've seen a lot is that lighter riders just can't get mags to work for them. Riders that weigh less have a hard time getting this 70 millimeter contact patch to properly engage with the road, which gives them unpredictable slides. They'll lose traction suddenly and just not have the experience a heavy rider would have on these wheels. And so I see a lot of lighter riders reaching for, quake killers, reaching for seismic alphas, these smaller diameter, narrower wheels that end up suiting them better because they can actually get the entirety of the contact patch to compress into the road adequately. If that is you, if you are one of these people that mags don't work for you, but you still want to try a Venom product, I have limited experience on them, but the Mach 1 Cannibals might be perfect for you because they have a much narrower contact patch, but they still boast the same urethane. They both boast the same core, and hopefully that combination can still give you a pretty competitive wheel that you can actually manipulate to the fullest. Personally, my experience with mags and my experience with other wheels has also led me to the conclusion that mags are just inherently more competitive. They really seem like they don't lack roll speed where you need it, and the consistent transition in and out of slides is really, really nice, inspires a lot of confidence. And that's a big part of racing and just being fast in general, is confidence, is predictability, is I'm entering the corner at this speed, and in order to exit the corner, I need to hook up a slide in a reliable way and, maintain a line through the corner and be able to kind of test that limit, that edge of traction as I go through to try to keep optimizing the line further. And when you have a wheel that plays into that, that gives you the consistency, it makes finding the limit a little bit easier. So I really like mags, but I am bummed out about the durability of this wheel. But it seems like this sacrifice in durability has given them just a tiny bit of edge in competitiveness that every manufacturer is looking for right now. So yeah, I gotta rack my brain, think if there's anything else to say. I don't really have anything else to say. I like mags a lot. I think they're really balanced. I think they wear pretty evenly. Like the way that they've done the core placement and the bearing placement really feels like they're using all of the contact patch together. Where some other wheels get their you know, their grip from is really getting the lip to engage with the road. Quay A1, for example, I really enjoy the white Quay A1. I think they are just about as competitive as this wheel. I still need to try to skate them back to back with a fresher set because my set is absolutely destroyed. I am hoping to get my hands on a newer set of those so I can actually rip them back to back with a fresh set of Magnums, so I can give you that definitive answer of which one is better. But if you're, you know, looking to race and you need to pick up a wheel and only one of those two is in stock, can't go wrong with either of them. But the shape of the Quay one, the design of it, puts a lot of pressure onto the outside lip of the wheels, and that's where it gets its traction from. And you can also tell when the wheel is wearing down that that outer surface of the lips is bearing a lot of the load. Whereas Magnums, I feel like they're more balanced, and visually they seem more balanced because a contact patch wears just a little bit more evenly across the whole surface. Mags get their grip from their size and their width. And other wheels, Alphas, actually I don't have a ton of experience on Alphas, but my understanding is that they're kind of similar. They get their grip from lips. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Was this a review? I don't know. Was this a ton of information to just kind of spitball out there? Yeah, it was. But it's about time I finally talked about these wheels. This is just such a consistent shape to ride and almost always provides, you know, good skatability in basically any condition you throw it at. So that is truly the end of this. Check out my Patreon for more content. I've talked about mags a bunch on there, as well as other wheels. And then also, if you throw me a few more bucks, you get some 3D printed stuff, foot stops, inserts, stuff like that. Just a way to show my thanks for committing to give a little bit more than the base amount. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, patrons, shown on screen. And I hope you have a great day.